Good morning. Hope you're having a wonderful start to this beautiful day. We are in Genesis 41, familiar story. Now, Pharaoh, right, the leader of Egypt, had two dreams. Well, actually, yeah, two dreams. And it's talking about the cows, it's talking about the corn, and pretty much they couldn't find anyone to interpret these dreams. But that's when the cupbearer butler's amnesia ended. He was like, oh, I forgot. I meant to keep a promise. There was this dude in jail who was the leader and he was able to interpret dreams. Yeah, we got to get him. And that's when they brought forth Joseph. And, you know, before he came before the Pharaoh, he shaved and he, got dressed, changed his clothes, right? And it's a really interesting story. And what spoke to me was that Joseph was brought before the Pharaoh, and Pharaoh was like, yeah, I heard you could do this. I heard you could interpret dreams. And you remember how Joseph was kind of arrogant at first? He was like, yeah, you can, bow down to me and do this. Well, look at this shift. In verse 16, Joseph answered the Pharaoh, it is not in me. It's not me who's going to interpret the dream, but God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Ooh, look at that humility, right? Because before humility, you had to have that. Then you have honor. Then you have promotion. So that spoke to me, verse 16. And then verse 33, it says, now therefore, Pharaoh, look, Joseph is saying, you need to look out for a man who is, smart, who's intelligent. It says, now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet, discretion, and wise, wisdom, and set him over the land of Egypt. And, Pharaoh was like, hey, you're going to be the one because you were able to interpret this dream. You were able to foretell the famine that was coming. You were able to see witty visions and had discernment. You're going to be the one. Okay, and I'm going to pass it to Timotheus, who has 39.
Can you read that for me?
39 in my version says, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God has showed thee all this, the interpretation was the dream is going to, mean for 7 years. There is none so discreet and wise as thou art.
Okay, so Joseph spent a lot of his years either as a servant or in jail. So he didn't really have a lot of time to get a lot much education, maybe not as much as a noble or whatever in the land. Mm-hmm. So, but he still made his way because he was serving God, and God gave him that insight and that discernment. And he could have easily been like, oh yeah, well I got it like that, that's just light work. But he gave the honor to God as usual, and his humility, I think it elevated him and made him even more attractive to be used.
Amen. Not only attractive
to be used,
to be used of God. Yeah, no, he was drawn. People were drawn to him. It was the favor of God that was in his life, and that was from his years, like you said, having connection with the Lord in an isolation. Right? Whether it's, you might be in that isolation period or that time at that job where Lord, why am I here? Why am I alone? Because the Lord wants to download messages to you. The Lord wants to develop that relationship and get you closer. I can tell you that the time in my life when I wrote over 50 songs, right, was maybe 12 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, when I was going through that time, the hardest time of my life, and the Lord just kept on writing. And I would take a journal and I would just write the words from heaven. And the Lord would do the same for us if we get still enough when we are in these situations where the Lord has just shut out every resource, every prop, every support, and he just wants us alone. He and you alone. Amen. So he wants to give us that discretion. He wants to give us that wisdom. And ultimately, he would give us the promotion for his glory alone. Not our self-aggrandizement, but for him to get the shine out here because it's dark. Even though it's light and the spring is going to be nice and warm outside, no, it's a dark world. So let us shine our light